Hi everyone, so today we're going to make this fun interactive card using MFT Stamp's new Falling from the Clouds frame die, and we're going to pair it with some beads to make this great little rainy scene, kind of like a magical rain shaker card type effect. And I also got out my Rain or Shine stamp set by MFT so we can make this cute little scene on the front of the card with a little girl and her ducky, and they're just having the best time on a rainy day playing in puddles. And we have this great sentiment on the front of the card that says, "I'm here for you even on the cloudiest of days." So let's get started. So the first thing I did was I cut out the frame using some Wild Wisteria cardstock by MFT Stamps, and then I cut it again using some Lavender Fields cardstock. And I cut the back panel using some watercolor pattern paper by MFT and then 110-pound cardstock. And we're going to layer these two panels together to make sure our base is sturdy. They are cut out by 3.75 inches by 4.75 inches for the back panel. All right, so the next thing I did was I used the die in the set to cut out two little racks. And we're going to need this to put together our interactive element on the card, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put together our back panel, and I am using some watercolor pattern paper that's pretty thin, so I wanted to reinforce it with some heavy cardstock behind it. If you are using heavy cardstock for your back panel, you don't need to do that step. And then we're going to take a 1/4 inch of foam tape, and we're going to put it on either end of our 3x75 by 4x75 back panel, and we're going to make sure it's abutted right at the edges. Now we're going to tape off the backing and we're going to apply our rack. And the important thing here is that the notched edges need to point towards the away from the panel, if that makes sense, so that the little notches, the fringe part, is on the outside. And you're going to do the same thing on the other end of the card, because the little fringe is where we're going to attach our thread to make our little strings of beads that are going to make it look like it's raining. So there we have it. This is what the back panel looks like, and you're going to have about half of the little fringe element hanging off the back, and that's perfectly fine. Now I took some beads that I just had on hand before I got into card making. I really loved making jewelry, so I've got all kinds of jewelry supplies, and I just took out some invisible sturdy thread and some beads that I thought would look nice. And let's get started. So we're going to take our thread and maybe cut it to about 1 yard, and then you're going to attach it to the back, the thread to the back, with some score tape, and then put it through that first notch. Now I'm just getting out my beads, and I got some nice turquoise beads and some nice like clear shiny beads, and we're going to put between 8 and 10 beads on each of the strings depending on how large your beads are. So once you get your beads on, then you're just going to attach the thread to the first notch and then weave it up into the second notch right next to it. And then do the same thing. You're going to pick up some more beads, about 8 to 10 of them, and then you're going to slide the thread through the second notch right here. So I'm just lining things up, and you want to make sure that it is not too tight, but also not too loose. You'll kind of get a feel for it as you're working on this. And then you just carry through until you get to the very end of the card. So here we are, I've got 2 more rows to do. And if I need to add more thread along the way, I did so. You just kind of attach the end of your old thread to the back and then attach your new thread to the back with some score tape. So you don't need to have like one continuous string. And in fact, it'll probably be easier to work with if you just have short threads. So my threads were no longer than about 3 feet each, and I only needed 2 3 feet stretches of thread to complete this card. And then every now and then as I'm going along, just to make sure that my card isn't getting bent, I just kind of give it a little bit of a, you'll see in a second, a little bend just to make sure that the threads are not too tight. All right, so now we are finished with our beads. See, there's the little bend I'm doing, just to make sure it's all good. And my beads are all strung on, and I kind of, I used silver beads for some of the strings, and then turquoise for others. I didn't go one and one and one. I wanted to mix it up a little bit so it would have more of a natural look to it, I guess, using more of the silver beads and less of the turquoise beads. Now this is just a decorative element that I'm doing. I wanted just to have like a little light lavender border of clouds there. So that's why I layered two fronts together. You don't have to do that. Okay, so this part's important. So we're going to do the same thing with the foam tape. We're going to cut it in half, and then we're going to attach it to the very, very edges of the bottom of our back panel. And then I'm just going to cut off the excess on the side there, and then run some anti-static powder tool along the edges just so that the beads never stick. Now we're going to take off our foam tape and then apply our front panel. And again, you don't need to have two panels like I did. I just wanted a little variation in color on the front, so that's why I did that. All right, and so now our interactive element is all put together. I'm just playing with it, making sure it works, and then I decided to cut off that little strip of lavender on the bottom because it just for aesthetic purposes. Now we're going to attach our interactive panel to our card base, and I'm just using some score tape for that. And now we're just going to attach it to an A2 size card base with a nice little white border. I love that. And now we're just going to play with the card and see if it works, and it does. So now it's time to decorate. So I colored in and cut out our little images off camera. And then we're going to attach our little girl with some foam tape, making sure only to put foam tape on the lower half of her body. That is going to touch the purple part of the card panel because otherwise she could get stuck in the beads. And then I adhered the puddle flat to the base of the card, and I put some little foam tape behind the ducky. And then to make the little puddle pretty, we're going to put some white Blizzard Nuvo drops over that. And then I'm going to just stamp some little splashy marks, or splashy marks. I don't know what else you would call it. And I colored it with some BG10 Copic marker, and then put the white Blizzard drops over that, just so it looks nice and fun. So this little girl and her little ducky, they're just playing in puddles. And in the background, we have our interactive element with this great rain that's just falling from the sky and is kind of hidden up in the clouds when the interactive feature isn't in play. So that's all I have for you today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you give this card a try. I had a lot of fun with it, and I think there are lots of other ways that you could use this die to make cards for things other than rain. I think it would be a fun party card if you wanted to have like confetti elements in the background. I think that's a great idea. So that's it for now. I would love to hear what you think of this card, and I wish everyone a very happy Mother's Day. Have a great day, everyone.